Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hoops HQ Show. Seth Davis back with you along with my buddy and partner, Andy Katz. Andy is joining us from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois, where, among many other things, Andy is covering the NBA Draft Combine. He is on site. He talked to just about every player, every top player at the Combine over the last couple of days. We are taping this on Wednesday morning, so this is before the 5-on-5 scrimmages. So Andy's been talking to prospects, and then we had a full day of measurements and agility tests and lots of buzz and lots of networking. Andy, let's go right into it. I'll basically interview you here. Of all the interviews that you did the first day of the Combine, what would be your headline as to any particular conversation you may have had?
Well, I'm going to give you a macro comment first, that this is year 2, as you know, of these players being paid. And one thing I noticed really in interviewing almost the entire lottery was that, first of all high character, polished. They've been doing commercials. They've been doing a lot of interviews, so they can handle all this. On the negative side, and I've been doing this a long time, what I thought was missing was a bit of the wow factor. Like, whoa, I'm in the NBA. I'm here at the Combine, wide-eyed, like, can't believe all these things are happening. It's kind of like because they've already been professionalized, I think we've lost some of that. That's just something I noticed. But I'll tell you one player who has not lost it, and he's clearly been one of my favorite players this season, and that's Yaxel Lendeborg. As we've documented many times, Yaxel Lendeborg was handed nothing. Okay. He had to really earn everything within, even when he came here and goes to JC and didn't know if he was going to play. And then he's at UAB, and then he's in Michigan, and he wins a national championship. He was wide-eyed. This is new to him, even though now he's been paid and all that. The fact that a year ago, that he's in this position to be a lottery pick, to be a champion. So I was so impressed with, just the genuineness from him. And then the other two guys I just want to mention real quick is one, Keaton Wagler, who a year ago was nowhere even near this to be a top 5 pick. So he really appreciates this. I can see that. And then the third player that I thought actually was the most impressive sort of individual was Kingston Flemings. Just the way he handled the interview, just so, grateful, appreciative of Kelvin Sampson, of everything they went through, was excited, knows that he's not there yet. I don't know. He was just a really impressive young man. So those are the 3 guys that sort of stood out to me.
Okay. A big question from our audience point of view are the guys who are on the fence about staying in the draft and leaving. So what did you learn, both in terms of your interviews, the chatter in the gym, and then, the measurements and agility testing and all of that? Because I think one of the big headlines was how poorly Koa Pete shot the ball. You and I talked to Kristen Peak last week about whether or not he might come back to Arizona, and she really kind of dismissed it. I'm wondering if you feel like maybe that picked up a little bit of steam.
Yeah, no, I do think that's a legit possibility. I mean, it's going to cost Arizona a lot, but I think it could happen. I know we're talking on Wednesday, but he has time to make that decision. But that's a legit sort of buzz around the building, if you will, here at Wintrust Arena. I think the most intriguing decision, though, is Merez Johnson Jr. By the way, sidebar, what I loved about the Michigan guys, Yaxel Lendeborg, Merez Johnson Jr., and Adai Mara, they were constantly, if they weren't competing or doing their drills and all that, they were in the stands cheering the other. I didn't see any other teammates doing that, or players sticking around to watch the other guys. So it just showed you just how connected these 3 guys were that all just played together for 1 year. But Merez Johnson Jr., he's somewhere in like the 15 to 25 range. So he is a first-round pick. But does he go back to Michigan? Does he try to win another national championship? I think he's right on that fence. Now, the one that's kind of interesting that caused quite a bit of buzz when I interviewed him is John Blackwell. I just don't see it because I think he's maybe a second-round pick, but he did open that door to me and say that, I got good options here. I could go to Duke. I talked to his dad and how impressed he was with Cameron Indoor, but I think he caused a little bit of a stir because Duke's a little smarting from last year when they got Cedric Coward from Washington State in the portal, and then he didn't go to Duke. Didn't really affect them. They obviously had a great year, but Blackwell kind of stirred that. And then I'll give you one other guy is Tyler Tanner. He really wants to stay in the draft, but I don't see him in the first round. He wants to stay in there, but Mark Byington is here from Vanderbilt. He also is kind of on the fence, but I ultimately think he will go back to Vanderbilt, but he's causing a little angst in Nashville.
So on Sunday, the NBA had its draft lottery. My Washington Wizards got the number 1 pick. There seems to be a very strong consensus that that number 1 pick is going to be AJ DeBonsa, but maybe a little bit of wiggle room, where people saying it's not a total no-brainer. Could Darryn Peterson possibly play into that spot? Could Caleb Wilson potentially play himself into that spot? How certain would you be in predicting DeBonsa at number 1?
I feel pretty confident. I mean, I'm not going to compare Peterson to Kwame Brown, but I don't think the Wizards, and that name may smart you a little bit, but I mean, I don't think the Wizards can afford, and it's not a gamble with Peterson, but just what you're getting with DeBonsa. He showed up every game, he competed, he produced. There's no drama around him, and that's not fair maybe to Peterson. And I talked to Darryn, but I think with DeBonsa, they just know that this is who they're getting. And so my gut is that, he will be the first pick of the Wizards.
Yeah, and people can question Darryn Peterson all they want, but you're still talking about maybe going at 2 or 3 at the absolute lowest. So there can't be too many questions about the guy. If he's the 3rd pick in the draft, he's probably going to be the 2nd pick of the draft. But this is what's fun this time of year, Andy. We're in the media, we're in journalism. Like, we always get lied to a little bit in our job, people using us to get this is the time of the year where we get lied to the most, because you have scouts and everybody trying to throw you off the scent, so to speak. But the lead up to the draft, to me, is as much fun, if not more fun, than the actual night of. And we're going to be covering it very extensively on Hoops HQ. But coming up next, our old media colleague, buddy, Doug Gottlieb. He is now a full-time college basketball coach with the Green Bay Phoenix, and he joins me and Andy on the Hoops HQ show when we return. All right, as promised, we are now joined on the Hoops HQ show by Doug Gottlieb, the head men's basketball coach for the Green Bay Phoenix. Doug, I don't know if you have a little pod envy right now. I don't know how much you miss your radio days, but as you can imagine, we have been covering all of the action, the free agency season in college basketball pretty closely since the end of the season, the transfer portal. As an old media hack, I'm sure you understand how great it's all been for us covering the movement and generating interest and conversation in college basketball during a time of year where it usually doesn't get that. So we've had some pretty big names and high major coaches talking about their experiences in the portal. Explain to us, forgive me for saying, at your level, at the mid-major level, how much different it is working the transfer portal and free agency in college basketball compared to your power conference brethren.
I mean, I can't speak to what it's like at the power conference. I mean, I would say, obviously the scale is different financially, right? I mean, that's probably the most obvious. And at our level, you have to make, I think, a cognitive choice. And actually, this is like one of the things that I got to figure out here probably by the weekend is, do you take a high major guy who, for whatever reason, and there's a litany of them, isn't getting an opportunity or isn't performing at that level that wants to transfer down? Or do you take a guy, and we've taken the 2nd year in a row of D3 All-American, D2, JUCO, international, that are not proven yet. And then this is the first year we've done it where we've gotten a kid from our league where we've seen him and we know the level he projects at because we've seen him at our level and we know how he fits. So, and all of that adjusts the finances. But I mean, honestly, the high major transfer down or the D2, D3 transfer up or bench player at our level that wants a better opportunity or better fit. That's actually something that I wrestle with, And then you also have the do I bring back a guy who didn't have a great year, but he does have a year of playing for me, and he was part of a winning culture? And then you got to factor in the money. How much money do I have left? How much money does this kid need? All those things. It's a fascinating exercise, but to anyone who says, hey, you're not experienced in it, you're right. No one is. So yeah, as we learn, as we go. I also think the last thing is media people, and not as much you guys, but especially the local yokels, whatever. Like, you have no idea about the guys that we bring in. You're literally taking whatever we say. So it's like, oh, this guy's had a great portal class. Like, you don't know. I mean, they talk about not knowing anything, and then the whole idea of like rankings of teams. Like, everybody has a whole new team. How do you know? It's a fascinating exercise, guys, and I love the ability to share it with you two. By the way, were you two always good? I'm questioning. Are you guys Compton, Long Beach? Like, were we always friendly? Because this is a very weird thing. This is like going out to dinner with two exes.
So listen, I threw him a bone just because we're friends and I thought it'd be fun, and because we know nothing at this point when they make me do these rankings in April or May. And I said, okay, Green Bay Horizon League champs, why not? It's not crazy because you did a great job, you and your staff, of moving up year one to year two. You're like a lot of us. And we've known you a long time. You try to do a million things, and at some point you realize, ooh, something's dropping off. Maybe I should do less, and you're always trying to figure that out. At what point did you realize after year one, I need to just shrink my responsibilities a little bit and lock in?
I think my brother and I were on the phone one night, and I just remember him saying, like, look, you just got to at some point accept that last you failed. And you guys know this better than anybody. There's a reality to painting a perception of what really happened that we try and share with the media, but there's also the classic lines of that coaches always try and, know what really happened was, and we try and load you guys up with ammo to help us when we failed or when our team lost or whatever. Like, I could go through the Anthony Roy broke his ankle and we had this problem. We were on APR probation and I got the job late and we had no money, but nobody really cares, right? And my brother's point was like, hey, you failed, so figure out how to not do that again. You got to change things. I didn't clean house with my staff, but I turned over my staff. That was really, really hard because you get emotionally tied to these people. Plus, they didn't bail on it when it got bad, but I had to change staff. And I can't ask that of other people if I'm not doing that myself. And what I found, Andy, was I was so tired. And I also thought I lacked some of the proper emotions of letting things set in and the ability to stop and focus and do something during the day that's not my basketball team related. So it wasn't one moment. I just thought it was time. I can't change all these other things and not go, hey, I got to change myself. So there's your long answer, even though I promised you shorter answers.
Yeah.
we know
like
we know better than to. No, we know better than to expect short answers. But
the late great Barry Sachs, no ends. Okay, just you're really good the first 45, and then that's it. Okay, that's it.
But I often wonder sometimes, like, how much do you miss it, right? Like, especially when certain stories come across the radar, whether it's what's happening with Mike Vrabel or whatever's going on, and your takes on LeBron, your takes on everything. Do you ever get to when certain things happen? Because I know you're sports. You're like, man, I just wish I could have a microphone for 15 minutes so I could.
Yeah, you get take envy, and I can still do that. I still do a pod now, and I'll crank that up a little bit more here in the off season. You still get some, but it doesn't, it's not the same, doesn't resonate. I mean, again, the fun part about doing daily radio is you get to react kind of right away. Like, it's fun, right? And when you have a name, and I kind of created a name, and people do react to your takes. And I miss it the 1st and the 15th very much. I do. Those are my 2 days where I'm sad But honestly, like summertime, I do not miss it. like schedule release in the NFL on Thursday, May 14th. Like, come on, dude. Now, it's big for us in Green Bay because we're trying to figure out our schedule and how it works for the Packers. But, and do I miss talking about LeBron like once and all? Yeah. But do I miss talking about LeBron now up until when they decide what he's going to do every single day when I've said the same thing over and over again? No, I do not. I did it for a long time. It's super fun. I think I miss calling games probably the most. I miss a Monday after a big sports weekend a lot. But if the sacrifice is giving up this job, I wouldn't do it. I love this job.
76 team tournament in 27. Obviously it's going to benefit more the Power Four, but there are going to be more units for more leagues that didn't get them because you can get money if you win that game in the opening round. But you really need the Horizon League and other leagues to get the best team there, or one of the best teams, to have a chance to advance. What are your thoughts from a Horizon League Green Bay perspective of the expansion?
So, and I don't know if you guys have gone over this. Basically, everything that's been done, by my estimation, from the settlement until the expansion of the tournament, is with one thing in mind. How do we keep the Power Five combined with everybody else? That's it. So the settlement is disproportionately punitive, the way in which it's being paid off for us, right? It's like 60-40, the little guy to the big guy, which makes no sense because we didn't actually have the athletes that had any sort of name, image, and likeness, yet we got to pay 60% of it. And the answer is always like, yeah, because if we don't, then the big boys are going to threaten to break off and do their own thing. It's the same reason they're expanding the tournament, right? The NIT just doesn't matter. The crown is, I know you work for Fox. You guys, you both do work for Fox. You don't. Okay. So the crown is a joke. It was a uniquely poor idea that has been compounded with the transfer portal and the timing of it. People are telling kind of half the story. The full story is, look, it's all intended for the big boys, to keep the big boys in the tournament together for like 10 more years. We got to create more revenue for them. We got to put more teams in the tournament. This is the way to do so. Now, is there some runoff benefit to the little guys? Sure, we'll get some units. What you didn't say in those units is now all those units will be collected in Dayton or wherever this other site is, right? And so there's only a 50-50 shot that you're actually going to get to the real tournament anyway now, which sucks. It sucks. But again, this is the business we've chosen. You don't like the way the NCAA tournament's selected? Don't coach at this level. That's really it. So how do I look at it? We're still going to get one team in the tournament. We'll get a chance to win our first game. We'll make it out like that's the greatest thing ever. But the reality is that now we're in the SWAC category where if we lose, we're going to lose in Dayton or wherever this other site is.
All right. Last question, Doug. And
that's it. I went too long. I only get like 3 questions.
No, that was good. That's it. That's why we invited you.
I have a bunch of other stuff that's really good. That's interesting. But
I'm sure you do. Get this man a radio show.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to talk about the NFL schedule release, we'll have you back.
I don't want to talk about the NFL schedule.
We'll do 3 hours on that. But we are in the season or approaching the season in terms of putting together your schedule.
Yes. Doing it.
And this was obviously big conversation with respect to Miami of Ohio and their non-conference schedule. And I think there's a lot of confusion about how all this works, again, particularly at your level, because people will say, well, it's not unfair to the Miami of Ohio's and the Green Bays because the big boys won't, no one's coming to your gym and no one's coming to. So what's kind of your swing thought in terms of how you're managing your schedule? Because you also need to make money, and that means getting these bye games and guarantee games to go to, Allen Fieldhouse, which you did last season, and get your butt handed to you, probably. So what's your swing thought going into the schedule, and where are you with your schedule?
We have a lot of people talking about things that they don't understand, and then you allow, like, I think Travis, I talked to Travis about it at the Final Four. Like, I think it's great, but again, Travis has given you the Travis spin. So the first thing is, his schedule last year is like my dream, right? Like, wait, you had an MTE at your place? You got to pay people to come to your place? Like, how did you swing that one? So the reality is you have money, okay? And from 0 to, at our level, I don't know, probably in the MAC, $2.5 million, right, is probably the peak. So how you get to use that money is based upon your arrangement at your university. Do you play a guarantee game and can you raise that money, or do you play a guarantee game and it has to go to the rest of the athletic department? Again, everyone is different. So Miami, Ohio, by my estimation, probably spent $400,000 on their schedule last year. They bought 7 wins. No one in low to mid-major basketball can buy that many wins. They just can't. They don't have the financial resources. But it's brilliant from Travis's perspective because, hey, say he had $2 million to spend, which would have been top of the league. He only spends $1.5 million on his team. He spends $400,000 on buying those wins. And now you buy those wins, you win a bunch of games, and you get more money for the next year. It's great. So now to my schedule. Okay, I have to make money. I'll just tell you, I have to make $400,000, $400 to $450. It's a lot. That is, if you're playing 4 high majors, you should be able to get $400,000. But those are 4 whoopings. What nobody tells you about these things is, if you play somebody too big too soon or at the wrong time, you kill their confidence. I mean, we played Kansas, and our guys thought they couldn't play basketball anymore. You know, I had one of my kids go like, "Coach, they got 6 guys out there?" I was like, "No, they're just better than us." You know, I eventually want to get to where we can play 4 or 5 buys. That's what we're going to have to do to fund our program. We play 2 non-D1s at home. And for anybody who's critical of them, because you don't understand how our job works, right? It's okay for Kentucky to play Prairie View A&M. It's not okay for Green Bay to play a Division III school. It's the same game. We have to get games that we feel like we can build up our confidence, because when we play 4 or 5 guarantee games, it'll crush your confidence because they're that much better than you. And if you don't get that, you don't get the psychology of coaching or basketball players.
No, I think it's fascinating, and to me, what comes through from your answer is just how uncertain everything is, and just how inexact it is, and especially at your level, I think how late it all comes together. But Dougie, it's good to see you, man. It's good to talk to you. I know how much you wanted to be a college basketball head coach. I know how long you chased it. I know how proud your dad is of you, the job that you're doing, and the relationships you're forming with these players. And let's get those 20 wins. Let's get you to March Madness next season. How's that sound?
It's a wild, wild ride, and I love being on it.
Congrats.
Good stuff. Thanks for being on the show, Doug. We appreciate you. Andy and I will be back to wrap things up right after this. And I want to thank again Doug Gottlieb for joining us on the show. Thanks, Andy, for that great reporting from the NBA Draft Combine. Thanks to all of you for watching. As always, I encourage you to go over to hoopshq.com. There's still plenty of coverage to be done in the transfer portal, in-depth feature stories. But the next 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, we're going to be really, really heavy into the NBA Draft, covering all angles of how this is going to go down. So go to hoopshq.com and subscribe to our content there. You'll see me and Andy and everybody else, and then back here on the Hoops HQ show. So for Andy Katz, I'm Seth Davis. Thanks for watching, everybody.